I'm utterly and completely shocked because the quality of the other books was so high and so beautiful. And every time I watched one of the videos that was an interview with the author or the author reading from the books, I thought, that person should win. That person should win. And so I was very honored to be among that exalted group of writers. And we all, I'm sure, fought very difficult personal battles to get our books written. And I'm proud of all of us, and I'm very happy because this will help give attention to autistic people and their families who are striving and suffering and making little victories every day in their lives. I thought, well, what inspired me was in 2001 I wrote an article for Wired magazine called The Geek Syndrome about autism in high-tech communities like Silicon Valley. And it got a lot of attention at the time, but what surprised me was that I kept getting email about it for like 10 years afterwards. And the email that I was getting were from autistic people and their families describing very real day-to-day problems like, I have to sue my local school board so my daughter can get an education, or I was always told that I was very bright when I was young, but now I can't find a job because I can't get through an interview. Meanwhile, the whole world was having a long and loud argument about autism, but it wasn't about those problems. It was about vaccines, what causes autism, is it pesticides, is it GMO foods? And I felt that there was this huge disjunction between the problems that autistic people and their families face in their everyday lives and what all of the world media was talking about. And eventually I felt that there was a problem with storytelling, that there had been a failure of storytelling to communicate the radical changes to the autism diagnosis that produced the startling rise in diagnoses. And so I hoped to write a story about the history of autism through the eyes of the people who lived it in a way that would reach people at an emotional level. Probably the simplest way to understand neurodiversity is to say to oneself, great minds do not always think alike. Just like there are many different life forms in a rainforest, there are many different styles of cognition in the human community. And one way to embrace neurodiversity is to stop stigmatizing autistic people, to support organizations for autistic people that are run by autistic people, like the Autistic Self-Advocacy Network, to support the provision of services for autistic people and not just give a big check to an organization that's going to give it to the Beijing Genomics Institute to find more candidate genes for autism. As a society, we think we've been taking autism very seriously by relentlessly searching for its causes. What we need to do is start helping the autistic people and their families who are here live happier, healthier, and safer lives. I was Allen Ginsberg's teaching assistant when I was young, and he not only taught me about the power of language to transform the world, he also taught me about the force of good research. He actually had file cabinets. Hardly anyone knows this, but his apartment in New York City was filled with file cabinets on subjects that interested him, and he would, sort of meticulously accumulate evidence of things that he was thinking about. And so, in a sense, he was like a global journalist as well as a poet. And he was my first mentor in writing and a great inspiration. Another writer whose presence and writing were really crucial for me was Oliver Sacks, the neurologist and author. He practically ordered me to write the book. 6 years ago, he said to me, "You must write your book." And unfortunately, as we know, he just passed away. He was writing through the end. Not long before the end, he fell in love for the first time in many decades. And he was a humane, compassionate, and accurate observer of the human condition in all of his books. And he was a great inspiration to me as well. I have no idea. Getting through the next year and figuring out what my new life is. Basically, I left journalism 5 years ago to fall into the unknown. And the unknown was writing this book. I thought it would take me a year and a half. Instead, it took me 5 years to write. It was the hardest thing that I've ever done. It was like climbing a mountain. And so now I'm about to jump into the unknown again and figure out where this book will take me.